welcome to another episode of the Pony Podcast with Tess Bishops, Alex Van Randwick. As promised, here is the second half to our wonderful interview with Nicola Kinnard-Comedie from NKC Equestrian, all about myth busting, so talking about horse first aid and what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, some things that you've maybe been told to do but shouldn't really be doing because they're bad. Anyway, listen to this episode for Alex and I learning that we do most of the bad things and hopefully improving and making sure that we're looking after our ponies a little bit better. All right, enjoy!
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just saw he's meowing out the window.
Oh.
I would like to make a quick podcast plug to the Blue Cross.
Okay.
Because
That's okay, they're our friends.
this is where Gengi came from. We're Gengi's fifth home.
Aww.
And how anyone can get
Honey.
a puppy or a kitten when there's all these beautiful animals needing rehoming makes me feel quite sad.
I don't think they let us have rehome places because we don't have a fenced garden. I don't think they let us rehome cats. Or rehome dogs even. Mum's allergic to cats, so we can't rehome cats.
I mean, yeah, not everyone's got a suitable
Yeah.
offering, but Genghis came with all these different medical conditions and he's just he's never lived with children and he's absolutely amazing with the children. He's so good. He came to us, he was just getting over broken ribs and a punctured lung where someone had kicked him.
Aww.
He's like a dog. He comes out and walks. If one of the children is sad, he goes up to them and sits by them. So
That's so cute.
yeah. Genghis, you're famous. We've mentioned you on the podcast. You are a bit of a podger. He has over 3 years we've had him lost over a kilo, which I'm very pleased about. But yeah,
He's got an amazing meow.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a proper meow, you know.
That is a proper cat. He's
Yeah.
super for you. He is a dude. He might
There's going to be
even.
another cat who's obsessed with me.
He hates all other cats.
I have this thing with cats where they really like me, and I'm quite asthmatic, so you know it's fine.
Oh, bless you.
Well, I just can't live with cats. But every now and again there'll be one cat who's like, you.
I don't know if you listened to the one 2 weeks ago. We went into the pentathlete and she was house sitting and she had a load of dogs and a cat. And the cat came up on the table we were recording and like walked all around Tess underneath her nose and like
Just
was
it
like
was.
hi. Left us alone.
I think they do.
It knows.
Fantastic one.
They
I had
know.
a friend visit the other week and he's not a cat person. It's like the cat will just definitely want to sit like on you. And he did. He did.
It's attempted murder, is what it is.
Well, sorry, it's not a cat interruption, but I could hear it.
I'm here for an interruption. Normally it's my dog. He interrupts a lot.
Genghis is just such a cool cat though. He really is, bless him. Sorry, I got totally distracted by my cat. Blue spray covered wound powder.
That's an impressive pickup again.
Very impressive.
I couldn't even remember what we were talking about.
I was like,
Is
vaccinations.
mum multitasking. 1 minute you're in soft play, next you're in a course or a meeting about a
Amazing.
course.
I'm still halfway through a biscuit, so.
Just have to do everything fast. So yeah, we talked about wound powder, talked about blue and purple spray, and you were just saying, you know, why run the courses is to help people and their horses, because like I just said, I think we've all got the best intentions, but I haven't always done things perfectly, you know, and I would have said I was a really experienced owner, but my goodness, I've learned a lot from running these courses and working with these vets, and like I said, things change, but you don't get an update. Oh, just because, you know, you've got BHS qualifications, you've got ponyville qualifications, you had horses for years and years. As one of our vets very tactfully put it once, knowledge and experience are not the same thing, which I thought was a lovely way of saying, just because you've had horses for X number of years doesn't mean you're doing everything perfectly.
And it's amazing, even if you are doing your qualifications, that thinking is not necessarily up to date, you know? Like,
Definitely.
that knowledge is not necessarily best practice at the moment.
Yeah, and I feel very confident to say that the recommendations we make on the course are based on the latest recommendations from the vet world, and things change. We have changed the course, like, you know, a lot, because new things come out, you know, like the change from we used to say use hippie scrubbing, use a cap, use it really weekly, do this and this, wash it off, don't
Walk the
scrub with
horses,
it.
what they call it.
And then we changed it to stay line, because that was that is now the latest recommendation. So yeah, I think we've had people on the course who have ranged from a lady who had horses for 60 years to people that are about to get a horse and everybody in between.
It's good that people are coming before they get a horse, and not waiting until something goes wrong and then, maybe I should.
A lot of people come because their horse has just had an injury or colic and they're just like, I think I need to know more.
Suddenly you realise how little you know.
Yeah, definitely. But you were also saying, Alex, about on a normal livery yard, how people just don't always have the skills and not having a first aid kit, I think, is a really common thing. Either you just hope nothing's going to go wrong, which maybe you're slightly living in a dream world because horses are horses, or maybe you just assume there's some sort of magic yard kit
that will appear.
That will just magically appear, but definitely advise everyone to have just a basic first aid kit. Doesn't need to be anything really fancy, but a couple of non-stick dressings,
vet
wrap, some soft ban is one of my favourite products, soft ban, which, just to describe if people listening aren't familiar with it, it's basically like fine cotton wool which somebody has very carefully rolls up like a tail bandage. And if I think people worry about doing bandages because too tight, cause lots of damage, and of course you can cause damage doing bandages too tight, but that's why
you've got to put some serious effort in to get it too tight.
But that's why soft bands are good, because it breaks. If you pull it too tight, it just breaks.
Yeah,
it's perfect.
We used to use when I worked in an RDA centre, they would use from human first aid kits. They have the bandages with the pad.
Yeah.
Because they go out of date, so they can't be used in first aid kits. People just throw them out, and they're like, "Oh no, we can use that on the horse because it keeps the dressing in place."
Definitely, and I think really, really practical. But for owners, to make a simple kit, I think it's non-stick dressing. So you just get, like you just said, use a human product. Getting some love there.
Made a friend.
Some hydrogel that we talked about, or flamazine. Soft band, couple of vet wraps, maybe a bit of a basic poulticing kit, thermometer. That's definitely a good one to talk about.
But it's also like you don't need loads, because if you need loads, you need a vet.
Definitely, if you need loads of products, you need some help. But like a thermometer, that's a great myth to bust, because quite often we say on a hospital course, say, hands up, who's got a thermometer? And all these hands go up, and then I say, hands up if you've ever used your thermometer, and quite a lot of the hands go down. So either people have been really organised, they've made themselves a kit, or they've bought one perhaps, but they don't, taking a horse's temperature is really not, unless your horse is a very known difficult kicker or something, most horses really don't object at all, but it can give you such useful information, because if you don't know what normal is, and then your horse is unwell, and your vet takes the horse's temperature, what are they comparing against to?
Yeah, the best advice I give people for that is Vaseline helps so much. It just makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
They object a lot less if you've got a bit of Vaseline there as well.
I think most horses really don't object at all. They really don't. So
don't particularly care.
That would be a really good one for people, as a takeaway, to just get a thermometer. You don't need a special horse one.
No.
You can just get one from a supermarket. Don't be tempted to share one with your family. Have a separate one for the yard. And just get, if you're not sure how to take your horse's temperature, there's videos online, or get your vet when they're next out to show you. But just, know normal for your horse. It's so important.
When we had the equine herpes outbreak around us, I went and got a thermometer, and I just went to Superdrug and I bought a digital one. And I came back to the yard and I was taking my horse's temperature twice a day just to be safe. And the other girl that's on the yard was like, "Oh, I've ordered one off the internet, a special horse one," and I was like, £5 from Superdrug.
Special horse one just probably costs more.
You
can get ones that read faster, but you definitely don't need a special horse one. So you can just get a human thermometer, but it's no good if you've never ever used it. So I think
I've taken temperatures of some questionable horses, and I've never been hanging on to one for dear life. They're normally pretty good.
Be safe. Have two people. Have somebody holding a horse, and just be sensible. Get someone to show if you're not sure. But I think for the vast majority of people, that is a really, really good takeaway. And on myths around first aid, I think the importance of knowing normal is really underestimated. One vet put it really well, we say this sometimes on the course, that vets spend in vet school, if you could think about it, 2 years knowing normal, 3 years knowing the problems. And I think as owners, we think we should know every problem, and we don't put the emphasis on knowing the normal enough. Whereas if you can really know normal, you will spot a problem so much
quickly.
faster. And then you can give your vet so much useful information. You can be much more helpful. So I think that's not so much a myth, but really underestimated. And sometimes people probably are, you know, mucking out your horse in the morning. You would have an idea of how many droppings there normally are, whether the bed's, you know, how wet the bed is, and how much where the poo is, and you know, that kind of thing you probably wouldn't even think about. But that is a really good assessment that people are making every day. How much they've drunk, you know, what's normal,
how sociable their horses are,
how sociable they are. Yeah, are they dragging you off to the field, or are you dragging them? You know, it doesn't really matter, but what is normal, and then if there's a change, acting on it. But then adding in temperature, pulse and respiration rates would also be really, really helpful.
They give you like data, so it's more reliable. Like there's one thing ringing you about and being like, oh, he just didn't whinny at me over the door this morning. And then there's being like, oh, his pulse rate's, you know, 20 beats higher than it was meant to be.
But I think temperature is definitely the easiest one to measure. So in terms of first aid and wounds, small wound, but not, you know, misjudging a small wound, I think is the best way to put that, and then putting the wrong products on wounds, and maybe thinking the wounds need to be dried out. I think these are real common misconceptions.
We talked a bit about, because through temperature, we talked a bit about EHV and the kind of panic that, I mean, it's just gone round, but it is still rumbling away, I think.
No, they've had the all clear. They're opening this week.
Okay. I thought there was still a couple of cases rumbling around.
I mean, when we went to speak to the vet about, we had our episode, she said there are always a couple in the country.
You just don't hear about them.
And just because it's a busy competition centre, that's why everywhere was in lockdown.
And also I think they took very good, strong action. They were very upfront about it. And I think that was really good because it brought it to everyone's attention. Well, I did a free training for my followers with the Animal Health Trust recently about flu, and we talked about EHV, and I think we just, you know, went to the centre to try and hush things up. I was saying with strangles as well.
It always happens with strangles, doesn't it?
It's a shame because it's not really helping anybody, and that's how we can't get rid of some of these diseases and how they keep, you know, cropping up.
It's almost like you have more of a stigma for saying you have it than not, but actually everyone would be much happier if they knew you had it and they could stay away and not get catch it.
There's more of a stigma over it because like everyone knows everything in the horse world. Like you can't keep a secret for anything. So if you're not telling everyone already knows you have it, but they know you're not telling anyone, and then that's even worse.
Yeah, definitely.
What other myths do you hear around like vaccinations and stuff like that?
Oh, vaccinations is definitely a favourite one. So I think it goes back to just misunderstanding. The common one I hear is, I've got two horses. One, I don't vaccinate that one because it's too young. I only vaccinate the one that's competing. Or it's too old. So a really good analogy is flu vaccinations. Who gets a free flu vaccination?
I do.
You do? Why do you get free flu
Because I'm asthmatic, so I'm immunocompromised.
There you go. So you could be
really looking forward to coronavirus. Really looking forward to it.
Let's hope not. But flu vaccinations go to people, with weakened immune systems, young people, old people. So why do we think with horses, young horse, won't bother. He's old, he's retired, won't bother. Such a misconception, because they're the ones that actually don't have the strongest immunity and would need that help. Just because they're not physically leaving the field or the yard doesn't mean they're not at risk, because I think there's very few horses that have no other horse contact. So when someone says, I only vaccinate my competition horse, well, the fact you've got a horse that's going in and out of the yard, mixing with whoever, they're obviously coming back to your yard and then mixing with your other horses, other people's horses, they all need to be vaccinated. So that's a strong misconception.
I had a big, not as strong as a falling out, but there were tensions on our yard because
that's a very good way of putting it on a yard.
There were two new horses who came to the yard, and mine was about to go off down to her rider. So she had I think she had 3 weeks to go, and one of the new horses was fine. I knew it had been vaccinated, and it was in a stable right next to mine. It was a stable right next to mine, and they shared a window. So it had just come from across the road, so I kind of accepted that. But the new horse had come from down in Sussex, I think, so quite a way away from us. they didn't know anything about it. They didn't know that it would be vaccinated or anything. And I didn't insist to see its passport. I just said, you need to isolate it for 2 weeks. And I offered to take its temperature, but it turned out we didn't have a thermometer, so I didn't take its temperature, but I kept an eye on it. And then it jumped out of the field that it was in or something. So then she had to so then she put it in the box, and then it was going mad because it was in the box. So then she said, well, I'll turn it out in this field with the one who's next to my horse. And I went, no, you won't, because it's then going to touch my horse. And she was like, well, he can't stay in a stable. And I was like, well, it's not going out. So I'm really sorry. I understand it's really bad, but my horse is a performance animal and she's my priority. So, you know, do what you will, but it's staying away from my horse for 2 more weeks. And I got to the point where it was very tense in the yard, but it had 4 days left and I was going to die on that hill. I was not having any of it. It was not going anywhere near my horse until it had done its 14 days. And I kept thinking, 7 days is more than enough. And I was like, no, it's 14 days. Well, 10 days is really fine. No, it's 14 days. And every time it came back to me, I was like, no, it's 14 days. I didn't insist that you were blood tested before you came or anything like that. And my horse has been blood tested because she was about to go away. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not having this discussion. We're isolating.
Just either don't understand isolation or don't see the need.
Yeah.
Or just don't bother.
Yeah, and it's all these people complaining about coronavirus now.
Yeah.
Where they're like, oh, I can't believe we have to do this. And it's like, you are literally, by just keeping to yourself for 2 weeks, you are protecting the entire population.
Yeah, definitely.
Which includes a lot of people who are, like, I'm not really immunocompromised, but it's a respiratory virus and I have a respiratory condition, so it's a minor concern.
Yeah, definitely.
And there are people who are a lot worse off than I am, and it's like, are you really going to whinge about 2 weeks?
Yeah.
For the sake of everyone else?
But I think going back to vaccination for isolation with horses, most yards don't have a policy.
No.
A new horse comes and just gets popped into the main field, out with the main herd, or in the sort of middle stable. And I think the other problem is people think that they have to have like a separate yard to offer any kind of isolation. Whereas, yes, you can keep a horse in a separate stable, or potentially you could double fence a paddock
just
away.
Do your best, yeah.
Do your best, better than nothing. Separate water source.
Yeah.
And then you need to have some kind of rules over communal areas, because I've seen this before. I've heard people saying, we vaccinated whoever, but then the horse is coming round the corner, going into the communal wash box, getting ridden in the same school, which slightly defeats the object. So I think you raised a really good point. People need to have an awareness of what isolation is, and then actually just follow it through. I think isolating in a field, I personally think, is the best thing. Yeah. No riding. It just stays in that field for 2 weeks, and then everyone knows where they are. I think it's a much safer option.
And I think people taking isolation stuff seriously. Like, you're not just being ridiculous when you say, actually, your horse is not going to touch mine.
Yeah.
I do appreciate. I was being very dramatic and serious about it, but also it is a serious issue.
But I don't think you were being dramatic. I think you would just. You talked about the competition world.
Yeah.
That would be normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the competition world and the leisure world are
so different.
Big differences, and I think you were just putting in to practice what is quite normal, and the leisure world needs to catch up.
Yeah,
definitely. I had this because we had obviously the equine herpes outbreak, and I'd had this message from the girl that's running the yard being like, right, I'm taking really strict precautions, like I'm going to take the temperatures twice a day, I'm going to put a load of hand wash out, I want you to dip your boots when you come in. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, no problem, don't mind. And then 2 days later, a new horse turns up to the yard, and it's from down the road, and she just walked it straight in and went and put it in the field, and I was like, which field have you put it in? And she's like, oh, the one next to yours. And I'm the only person on the yard that goes anywhere and competes. And my horse is in. She's like, are you turning your horse out today? And I was like, no, not until I've double fenced that fence so they can't touch. And she's like, oh, but why? It's only from down the road. Like, it's not going to have anything. And I was like,
but
you
don't know.
They don't know. You can't see. That's the thing.
Have you blood test? And it's. I mean, you then get. And it's not cheap blood testing them, but you're like.
But even blood testing, that's not 100% reliable at all. And I think there's lots of myths around testing for strangles, because it
doesn't always show up, does it?
No, it's like a strangles blood test is not black and white.
Yeah.
It's got lots of grey areas. It's only showing the horse has had an immune response to strangles in the past, relatively recently or in the past, or they could in fact have it currently. But what you don't know, if you've had the horse blood tested, I don't know, the 1st of the month, and you're then moving the horse on the 14th, what happens when the horse next door has been out to a show, nose to nose with another horse out, and then gone back to the other horse?
Yeah.
It's helpful, but it's not really quite so hard and fast, particularly if you don't use the isolation as well.
I do think, I think everyone should go and spend time on a competition yard who does everything properly. Someone who, when you go to a stay away show, just pack a sprayer of Virkon and just quickly work on everything, and it doesn't take very long.
Yeah, definitely.
But even just doing little things like that,
can all I think all the
makes such
little
a
things
difference.
add up.
Thinking back to the vaccination myths, I think one popular one is it's a waste of money,
Yeah.
which actually, I think flu vaccinations are really, really important, but why on earth you'd have a horse and not vaccinated for tetanus?
Yeah.
Tetanus, it will simply kill your horse.
Yeah.
I've worked
And
with
it's
so
not
many
like they're not
different
out in the
fairs.
mud all the time.
Exactly, they're the most susceptible domestic
Yeah.
animal to get tetanus. All the different vets I've worked with, some of them have seen cases of tetanus, and only one has had a positive outcome.
Oof.
And a tetanus vaccination is going to differ whereabouts you're listening to from this in the UK, but it's going to be around £30 as an average.
It's not a lot.
If you're going to have a horse and you aren't prepared to spend £30 on it, and that might even be £30 every 2 years if you only did a tetanus vaccination, how anyone can say it's a waste of money? I just don't even know. Yes, flu vaccinations every 6 months are going to cost a little bit more, but most people, if you've got horses, you're going to be spending money on training.
They're not cheap animals,
But think where you're spending the money.
Yeah.
Does your horse really need another matchy set? Probably not. Is it a waste of money, or are you wasting money on other things? I think that's the thing to think of. Another myth is when people say, "Oh, my horse has had loads of vaccinations, done it for years, it'll be fine by now." Just doesn't quite work like that.
They're not like a loyalty scheme.
No, it's not yeah, exactly. You've had 6, you can just get the 7th
You get a free
year
one
free.
now.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Although that would be a good marketing scheme for a vaccination company to employ.
I'll take that to my vet.
Yeah, take that to your vet. But that is a real common misconception that, but it just doesn't work like that. Obviously, the vaccination recommendations are from the manufacturer's guidelines, because they know that's where the how long the vaccination will work for.
Yeah.
It's not a money making scheme saying, just keep giving them more and more.
I love people
It's to
who
give the cover.
don't vaccinate their horses because they're like, I don't want to pump them full of drugs, and then you look at their supplement cupboard and you're like, well, something's gone wrong somewhere.
And also, it's a responsibility as an owner to look after your own horse, but also to help the overall herd health. And that's what you're doing when you're vaccinating your horse.
Yeah.
Yes, you might be doing it because you have to for your yard or for competition guidelines, or competition rules. But I think if you think of the bigger picture,
You're contributing to herd immunity for
Yeah.
all the, and it's the same with human vaccinations.
Yeah,
You're
definitely.
contributing to herd immunity for people who can't have the jab because they're so immunocompromised.
Yeah, definitely. When I spoke to the Animal Health Trust, they estimate that the UK horse population vaccination rates are 30 to 40%.
What?
Yeah, that's the sort of
Scary.
similar noise that I made. Yeah.
Scary.
So I think we just all need to be doing a bit better, really.
Yeah.
I'm sure the vast majority of people listening to this do vaccinate their horses, but I think on so many yards there probably are people that just fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Yards might insist on looking at a horse's passport when the horse arrives, but are they then checking that horse maintains up-to-date vaccinations?
Yeah.
So lots of myths around vaccination. People think it'll make the horse ill or unwell.
Yeah.
Yes, your horse could get like an abscess on a vaccination site, but thankfully it does seem to be quite rare. Talking to all the vets I work with, and if that's happened to your horse before, they mention it. Because they can do a vaccination into the chest or something, which will drain better if it does have an abscess. But that shouldn't be a reason to put off doing a vaccination at all. So vaccinations are definitely common one for myths.
But yeah, flu's so important. But as we said, tetanus, I just don't know. I don't know how as an owner you could
not do it.
Not do that. Yeah.
Yeah, mad. I just, every time I think of tetanus, I think of, Warhorse.
Yes.
When he gets tetanus and they save him.
Yeah.
I always think of that, and not nice.
The vets that have seen cases of tetanus, it's so incredibly traumatic. It's highly, highly unlikely Warhorse had a happy ending.
Yeah.
Highly, highly unlikely that the horse will survive.
In real life, he didn't make it. you know.
But the vet who had a positive outcome, he also spoke to the group about the cost implications. We said how inexpensive a vaccination is. He thought those owners probably spent £5,000 to £6,000. Like, it's just intensive nursing, just fluids and antitoxin vaccination. But what a lot of money to spend. Yeah.
Scary.
Great that the horse survived, but could have been prevented.
Yeah.
So lots of myths around vaccinations for sure.
Yeah. What's next on the list?
What is next?
What's next? Choke.
Choke. So, great one.
I always think choke is really serious.
Choke is serious, but if you're a vet, you class it as a minor emergency.
Okay.
The reason as owners we think it's serious is because when we say choke, please don't choke on the biscuits, but if you started choking, you couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Choke for people is obviously a lot more serious.
Yeah.
For horses, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
It looks really stressful, but your horse can breathe.
Okay.
And that's where I think we get a little bit muddled.
Yeah.
So if your horse has got choke, there'll be coughing, spluttering. It doesn't look very pretty. There's saliva coming out. They'll be chucking the head around.
And snot coming out.
You'll get covered, and your horse, understandably, will be a bit distressed. But that's what we forget, is that they can breathe.
Yeah.
Because if a human's got choke, it's
They
a
can't breathe.
windpipe
Yeah.
that's blocked. If it's a horse, it's the food pipe, their esophagus that's blocked, not the windpipe. So it's a minor emergency, and I think it's so important that we don't get into a panic, but it feels really panicky and you feel like you should be doing something. So myths I've heard around choke, somebody has said, I gave my horse Coke. They seem to think that giving, my faces say, I have heard someone say that, wouldn't you give your horse Coke?
Coke for choke.
Coke for choke. It's catchy, you're definitely in marketing. It's not advised, no. Quite where they've got this idea from, I'm not sure. Another misconception is to put a hose pipe down their throat. The idea that you could just wash whatever is blocked down. The problem is you don't know what.
You don't know how fast it's stuck.
So
you might
where
just
it's
be
stuck.
filling them up.
Definitely. And you don't always know what's stuck.
Yeah.
The vet I was working on Saturday, she said she's pulled like a whole bramble out of a horse with choke before. Quite often it's a carrot. Cut a carrot round like a disc, the wrong way. It's a perfect size.
It really makes me very stressed when people, and I've said it before on the podcast, when people either feed them whole or cut them up wrong. Because my old pony, not the one Alex's sister has, a different one, they'd given it a carrot and it had got stuck. No, they'd given it apple and it had got stuck, and the vet came and they inserted a wire and cut it up, and that's how they got rid of it. And the vet said, "Oh, you're really lucky it was an apple, because if it's a carrot, it's really hard to cut up that way, and sometimes you have to go in from the outside." And just that, and I don't know why, because it wasn't a major thing, but Mum and I both really affected by it, and now anytime I haven't fed a carrot since without slicing it into I'm practically julienning it. So it's sliced up past spaghetti, and it really makes me very stressed when people feed them whole. I
think if you've never seen a case of choke, many years ago, a friend of mine and we had bought this pony very cheaply. We planned to bring it on and sell it.
Sell it for lots and lots of money.
Sell it for lots and lots of money. And back in, as my daughter would say, the olden days, because that's how old I am, we did seem to sell it for quite a lot of money, actually. But we'd not long had this pony, and he phones me up. He said, I think the pony's dying. It had choke. But, it does feel really, really nasty.
Really dramatic.
Really dramatic. But I think that's the really important thing to remember, is that your horse can breathe. But also with choke, So no hose pipes and no coke, just to be crystal clear. It's all, there's so much you can do to prevent it. Common causes, we've just talked about carrots and apple and treats, but there's so many products that we feed now that need soaking, but either they're not correctly labelled. Vets I work with, a real common time that choke occurs is when there's a loose horse.
Yeah.
Someone goes into the feed room,
Grabs the first thing they
scoop
see
of anything to get said loose horse, and then they get choked because they've ended up getting, I don't know, fast fibre, sugar beet, whatever, which hasn't been soaked. Or I think like holiday time, like Christmas time, when you've got helpers when you're doing the horses and you've got people staying, they're like, oh, we'll come and do the horses.
We'll come and help you feed.
We'll come and help you feed. Yeah, recipe for disaster. Just having your feed really clearly labelled, I think, is really, really important.
A friend of mine had a pony that would just straight up eat its feed so fast it would give itself choke, and she had to get a rock and put a rock in its bowl so it had to eat around it.
Definitely. But another common cause that can happen where choking can happen if you're feeding horses in the field, you know, together in a herd situation like young stock or something, and it's, you know, if you've got a herd, someone's at the top and someone's at the bottom, and the horse at the bottom is seeing theirs, they don't shovel that down.
As possible.
Top dog will come and eat it. So something as simple as taking that horse out who's bottom of the pile and letting them eat their food in peace might be a little bit of a faff, but could definitely
helps out.
Could definitely help out. But yeah, horse eating too fast, real problem. Horse maybe hasn't let sedation fully wear off. You know, maybe you've had the vet out because you want to clip your horse, your horse sedated, and you just haven't quite waited that long, or you haven't swept all the hay out. They always find that one piece, don't they? Yeah. But yeah, those are probably the worst myths I've heard around choke. But really, if your horse has got choke, check in with your vet. They may need to come out, they may not, but do just give them a shout and let them know, because you don't know whereabouts your vet is. Should hopefully resolve on its own within 30 to 60 minutes, but maybe your vet's quite far away. Check in with them just in case, and just try and get your horse to put their head down, stay calm, and take out the food and water. That's the best advice. But no hose, no coke.
Does it become more of an emergency if it's unsoaked feed, because it's just going to get bigger?
I think that's a really good question, and because you know, as Tess said, you don't know what's stuck where. That's why you need to check in with your vet. And I think when people say, oh, I'll give it 2 hours and then phone the vet or something, definitely unsoaked feed is probably just going to be causing more and more of a problem, as you said, swelling up more. And you know, it must be really uncomfortable for the horse. So I think that's a real misconception.
When you look at them when they have it, you're like, that looks painful. Like, you can tell.
I've been that lazy person that hasn't cooked pasta properly or hasn't cooked rice properly, and
you give yourself colic.
No, but like you feel a bit, you know, full or bloated when you drink a lot of water with it, and like choke must be.
I have never had that.
Never. Oh, maybe it's just me.
just you eating. I used to live with a girl who ate raw pasta, just straight. That was her go-to snack. Yeah, she just eat. She was.
She'd be better off with cereal or something. I can't help
odd person. You know when you see someone doing something and you're like, I don't trust you now. There was also, I worked with a girl who used to eat potatoes like they were apples, raw. Would just like.
No, that definitely can't be good for you.
So, and I remember that she came out. We were all working on the yard, and she came out just eating one. And all of us were horrified, and she couldn't work out why we had a problem with it. She was like, everyone does this. And we were like, no,
well, I think
they
don't. Some human nutrition myths busted there, definitely. Yeah, no raw pasta, no raw potatoes, for sure.
But like, whoever told her the raw potatoes were a good idea?
It's one of those things, like if you have a sibling like to play tricks on you.
Yeah.
Like, this is a really good idea. This is how you eat them.
You were that sibling, weren't you?
No. Okay, so
what else on the list?
We've got laminitis. Body condition scoring. But I know we've got
body condition scoring. I'm really interested to see what your myths are.
Well, it's harder to perhaps demonstrate body condition scoring by the power of audio, but myths around that would be that people, you know, we're seeing and hearing more and more about it, but people just don't appreciate what a healthy horse,
Yeah.
right weight, right score, really looks like. And I
Mm.
think we've just got the language all wrong.
Yeah.
So when we did a practical session on body condition scoring a couple of years ago at an RDA centre for a group of owners, and we looked at a selection of RDA ponies, and we looked at one RDA pony who had laminitis, was actually a really good body condition score. Also had conformation with like a low set neck and didn't have a strong top line.
Fat pony
Great.
shaped.
It wasn't. This was the one that wasn't fat.
Oh.
So didn't have a strong top line and had a low set neck, which probably gave a slight misleading impression.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if you're scoring, you do need a bit of a knowledge of confirmation as well. But the language everyone used on the fat horses was not fat, was they look well.
Yeah.
They use words like, well came up a lot, little bit round, but looks good, looks healthy, but well was the word people kept saying. When we came to this other pony who was a fine body condition score, you could see perhaps a minor hint of ribs. Bearing in mind it had this history of laminitis, so that, that's all well and healthy for this horse. Looks poor, looks down, and because of the low set neck and the lack of top line, it did probably give a slight misleading impression.
You're meant to see like a hint of ribs.
You are meant to see a hint of ribs, but I think the low set neck with the upside down muscle structure
did
help make her look perhaps leaner than she was. But people said, she doesn't look well cared for, she looks thin, and all this real negative language. But actually we should have been saying how she looked good, how actually she looked lean, how she looked healthy,
fit,
she looked right for her job. Yes, it's a shame she didn't have a stronger top line, but I can see, if she wasn't ridden by able-bodied riders, perhaps that was harder for her to, in her job, that wasn't what she needed.
And probably good that she's not bursting with muscle,
So I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions around body condition score, is that we don't know what a healthy score looks like.
I've had a nutritionist. I mean, I told this story on the podcast as well. So my horse has a wonky pelvis. So on one side she's got a really prominent hip bone, and the other one she doesn't have one at all. And I did badminton grassroots. We came home where I got 5 naughty time penalties, so I went too quickly, and she finished like she could go again. And I had a nutritionist who was doing body condition scoring and was like, oh yeah, we'd like have a go, fine. And they were stood on the side with no hip bone, and they were like, oh, she's really overweight, you really need to get some weight off her. And I was like, you can see rib, and B, I've just told you she's been round, fine. And I did just say, oh, just come to the other side. And they had a look, and I was like, yeah, no, she doesn't have a hip bone on the other side because it's shunted inwards. And I was like, from a nutritionist, like, come on, just stand behind.
But that's a really good point about comparing two sides. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And not going off just one thing of like, oh, well, there's no hip bone, so she's fat.
Yeah. That lends to a really good point that people think with body condition scoring, if I can feel my horse's ribs, it's fine. And they are pushing so hard, the horse is nearly falling
leaving a
over.
handprint.
Exactly. And as you said, it's a series of landmarks that you should be assessing. Or people just grab their neck and go, oh no, he hasn't really got a crest. Horses, just like humans, we all put fat in different places on us. Horses are no different.
And it's so variable depending on type. Like a cob that's fit is going to look a lot fatter than a thoroughbred who's fat.
Yeah. But you can still get a fat thoroughbred.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, I've got a thoroughbred.
She's perfect,
Yeah, it'll always be fine. So, I think language, not understanding to score the whole horse, and the obsession with, pressure. Getting the pressure right. It should be a light touch. You shouldn't be nearly falling over, and all should the horse. You could find any horse's ribs if you really push hard enough.
And like the horses you see at badminton, they're badminton horses, so they're going to be fit. But your horse at your level should still have that kind of fit shape. Just because it doesn't have the great big top line because it's not a badminton, not going to do a 5-star dressage test. It should still look fit and lean.
Yeah. So I think language and not really understanding how to body condition score, And maybe we're just all a bit worried, like as coaches, and I know there's been a bit initiative in the vet world to be a bit bolder about language and just say, you know, look, your horse needs to lose 50 kilos, your horse is fat.
Yeah, I really feel for vets because they must have to be, like, people can be so touchy about their horses.
Yeah, but I think that is the whole part of the problem there.
Yeah.
You know, vets don't want to lose clients, understandably. They don't want to offend or upset their owners, but then they're not being perhaps as honest and as forthright as they should be for the sake of the horse.
My farrier, he came to shoot my horse a couple of weeks ago, and he was chatting, and he was like, "Yeah, they call me the fat farrier because I walk on the yard and I go, that's fat," and the people would be like, "Oh, but the vet said it's fine."
No.
And he's like, "They used to fly things that side above London in the Blitz." Like, he's really just cuts to the chase, and he was like, "It's fat," and he'd be like, "Oh, right. Oh, sorry."
See, my vet walks in the yard and I goes, "She's fat, isn't she? She is, isn't she?" And he's like, "No, she looks... No, she is fat, isn't she? Just tell me she's fat."
Yeah. The vet I was working on Saturday, we were talking about different medication treatment options for hocks. And she said sometimes owners are surprised when I say, well, get it to lose 50 kilos, put it on a joint supplement, and then we'll discuss it, because you might find it looks a lot better.
I know.
It's good. It's good to be honest.
I've had a rash of people around us who, like, my horse has her joints injected, but she's competing at quite a high level, and there's quite a lot of wear and tear going through her joints, so, you know, she needs it. But I do know a lot of people who, you know, the first thing they say when you're like, "Oh, he looks a bit uncomfortable," they're like, "Oh, well, you know, he has had everything injected," and you're like, "Yeah, maybe it's because he's really fat."
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to be a bit fitter and things will mobilise a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and that's not always the problem. Sometimes they do need other forms of medication, but you do think it would be quite a good place to start, and it costs you a lot less than bloody hock injections.
Yeah, and if you think that all the time we should be looking to prevent problems, keeping horses at the right weight is just so important.
Yeah.
But yeah, just actually but so many people will be going to badminton and watching on TV. Those horses don't look thin.
No.
They're fit and they're lean.
And it's saying, like, your horse can look like that without it. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be, the only way it can look like that is if it's that fit. Like, I could start to lose a little bit and I could look, probably not like a marathon runner, but I could look like someone who is fit without me myself being that fit. It's just about having the right fat levels.
Completely.
Fat levels.
And like we said, horses put fat on in different areas, just like humans do. So just not assessing one part of the horse.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, without a picture, I think that's the best we can do about body condition scoring. But yeah, loads of myths around that. And I think people just need to be a bit bolder, and you know, so many videos and stuff online to help people, and just, you know, make that part of your regular routine with your horse. Just keep trying to be objective and
not
assess.
being afraid to take responsibility and be like, "Oh, actually, he is looking a bit fat." You know?
Yeah, do something about it.
It's like you're saying, the stigma around it. Like, people must think there's such a stigma around having a fat horse, and actually, it's like, it's fine. Like, every horse gains a bit of weight when the grass comes through. It's just being able to be like, actually, they do look a bit fat at the moment. I'll cut something down. But you know, do the best thing for your horse and do something about it. And practices are doing everything they can to help owners. And I think there's never been more on our resources, more tools, more support out there. So absolutely.
Get your horse moving, slow it down, eating wise, and make sure you're feeding it something appropriate.
Yeah.
And if it is on a livery yard which used to be a dairy farm, then maybe look at the type of grass it's getting. That's a whole nother podcast. That's a big topic, a whole nother podcast. What else have you got on your list for?
That's kind of at the bottom of my list.
Amazing.
I think we've covered quite a few myths.
Yeah, I feel like we might need to do another podcast. I think
this is probably going to be split into two because we're at 72 minutes now.
Oh wow.
We've covered a few myths then.
Yeah, and there's quite a nice middle point when you went to let Genghis in, so I think I will split it into two.
Well done. Oh, you
Clever
stuck
cat.
trying to get out, mate. It's
Clever cat.
beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think if I had any other myths. I think I got in all my first aid kit ones that I think.
I mean, we're not so bad now, but we used to be so bad for, like, I mean, if your horse had anything, would be like, oh, there'll be something in the first aid cupboard, and we had stuff that had been prescribed from, like, horses that had died years ago, horses that I barely remembered, and like,
At the RDA yard I used to work at, because the woman that ran it was about 75, she was really good about being up to date with stuff, and like she'd read her horse and hound veterinary and take all that into consideration. But we were looking in the first aid cupboard, and at the back there was like a big pot of lime flour of like for feeding it to the horses to give them more calcium, and like there was a big pot of Stockholm tar that
we've still got Stockholm tar. Yeah,
we didn't know how old it was, and it just been left there, and we were like, we'll just give it a clear.
We found kaolin. Yeah, we found kaolin in the cupboard, and the farrier was there, and I knew it was for poultices, but I've never had to do a kaolin poultice, so I was like, I don't entirely know 100% how to use it, and our farrier's generally, he's a pretty sort of solid kind of guy, so I was like, oh, Grant will know. Grant, how do you use this? And he was like, you throw it away and you use animal insects. And it was when even Grant said that, I was like, yeah, maybe
no,
we'll.
It's good for bruising.
Yeah, I think kaolin can be quite helpful actually.
We had a
for
pony.
bruising, or would you not just
No,
hot and cold compress it?
No, because we had a pony who didn't have any shoes on. He went to a rally over Easter where they were going on like an Easter egg hunt, and it was all over flints.
Oh,
and he got really sore feet, and so we kaolin poulticed him, and it really helped.
Oh, okay. Well.
No, I don't think I have. Oh, maybe one on colic surgery actually. If I've got a chance to add one more in. Myth.
I was talking about this the other day with a vet friend actually.
A myth on colic surgery would be that it's like a money spinner.
Yeah.
So, colic surgery depends where you are in the country. Having run my course in Northern Ireland, Scotland, and all across the country, it really varies. So the cheapest colic surgery I've come across is 3,500 Scotland.
I was going to say, where is that?
Yeah, I'm going to move there.
Yeah.
Down, up to like 10 grand, sort of close to London. Obviously, it depends on complexity of the surgery and what's required and blah blah blah. But as an owner, I just think, oh my god, 10 grand, that's so much money. It sounds like it's a great money spinner for a practice. So many places actually they lose money every time they do a colic surgery.
Really?
Yeah, because it costs so much to do. You think of the cost of running a theatre.
Yeah.
It's generally a vet doing the anaesthetic. You probably need 2 vets at least in the room. You need the nursing side of it. So I think we really underestimate why colic surgery costs what it does, because it's such a massive
We had a horse that had to have a colic surgery, and sadly he didn't make it about 2. Well, he did one, and then there'd been too much damage, so they thought about doing another one, and we said no. But I just remember there were 2 surgeons, there were I think about 4 nurses in there as well, and every single one of them had armfuls of intestine to get to the bit that was damaged. And we were watching it, and I was only like 8 or 9, something like that, and I was just absolutely like astonished there was this much stuff in a horse, and it was just there's so much in there, and they were just like armfuls kept coming out and coming. It was like handkerchiefs for a magician, like it just kept coming and coming and coming and coming.
But seeing how many people there were in the room just gives you such a good understanding of the cost.
And not even operating, like just there to hold intestine.
But all these people, they need to be paid. And that's you can see how the bill sort of adds up. But I think that's something that vets are. Of course, a vet practice needs to be a functioning business, and needs to make money. But that colic surgery is not getting vets Bentleys. I think that is, we think, so much. These vets are just cashing in on it. Not in the slightest. No. It's a real common myth. But that's what I wanted to say on colic surgery. That's why it costs so much, because it's such a big undertaking. There's so many people involved. So lots of myths covered. Loads. I don't think I've got. I'll think of something as you guys go. I've got loads of other things we could talk about.
Thank you so much for having us and talking to us and feeding us biscuits and nice biscuits.
Biscuits
and if people want to find out more about you or more about your first aid courses, where should they go?
They can go to my website, which is www.nkcequestrian.com. So we run first aid courses in various parts of the country. We've also got an online version, so you can't get to a course.
That's so
you can still learn. The online course is designed for the busy horse rider because it contains over 10 hours of audio material, which is recorded together with our vets. So you can listen while you're driving, while you're mucking out, walking the dog, whatever. You're not chained to a laptop to take part. Also have an annual conference with a host of veterinary speakers.
As the cat falls into a box.
As the cat falls into a box. And I also run some dissection days. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Can we come to that?
of course you can. Talking about our intestines, actually, where we had a whole digestive system out the other day. This was from a Shetland pony, and you just
Massive.
Absolutely massive. How that fits in is just
crazy.
incredible. It really is. Website's a good place. Facebook is NKC Equestrian Training, and Instagram's NKC Equestrian.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much.
And Genghis is an important part of the team.
We've got a new podcast animal.
Yeah.
Latest in a long one. Yeah.
He's very special.
It's very special.
Aren't you, Genghis?
Right. Well, if you guys want to follow what we're up to, you can follow us on Instagram at The Pony Podcast, Facebook at The Pony Podcast, and if you want to request an episode or just drop us a line to say hi, you can email theponypod@gmail.com. What else? The Fit Group. I can't remember any of the Fit Group details because they're not part of my spiel.
Oh. Okay, we are on the Flick app. I have been really bad recently about posting on there, but we are there and I'm getting back on it. And so if you just want to get in touch and have a chat and give us some feedback or request any episodes, just join the Flick app and people on there. We have a chat. It's good.
Easy. Thanks very much for listening. All right, bye.